Okay, that was the Congress party. Meanwhile, West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is accusing the government of opportunism, saying the budget was prepared with an eye on the 2024 elections. Listen in.
A budget not futuristic. এটা হচ্ছে টোটাল অপরচুনিস্টিক এ বাজেট। এতে আশার আলো নেই, অন্ধকারের অমাবস্যা আছে। টোটাল অ্যান্টি পুয়ার বাজেট। যারা 100 দিনের কাজ করেছে তাদের মাইনে পর্যন্ত এখনো দেয়নি। আমাদের টাকা তোমরা আটকে রাখো কি করে? Is it not a criminal offense? কনস্টিটিউশনে বলা আছে 100 দিনের কাজ করলে সময় মতো টাকা দিতে হবে। এটা অব্লিগেটরি, এটা কম্পালসারি। It is not optional. It is constitutional.
Okay, we have spoken about the opposition. We have spoken a lot about tax as well. But it's important to remember that that wasn't the only focus for this budget. The finance minister also announced a big infrastructure push. Number one, there's been a massive increase in capital expenditure, what we call CAPEX. Now, what does CAPEX mean? It is the expenditure made by the government on productive assets, on things like roads, bridges and ports. This time, the government has allocated 10 lakh crore rupees for capital expenditure. That's almost double the allocation in 2020-2021. Unlike revenue expenditure, capital expenditure gives you returns. It's a great investment. It creates jobs. It also creates productivity in the long run. Every 100 rupees spent on CAPEX gives 250 rupees in return. So capital expenditure is all about the long game. Let me go across to former FICCI president and banker Naina Lal Kidwai, who is joining us, talking to us about capital expenditure, talking to us about infra, especially in urban areas, etc. Naina Lal Kidwai, thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now. Always good to have you here on the show. For you, what were the key takeaways? I mean, it was the budget speech wasn't actually very long, 1 hour, 27 minutes. But for you, the big takeaways.
So I think the key takeaway here is the high growth orientation of the budget. This comes through because of the commitment to the capital expenditure that government has embarked on, which was surprisingly increased from the already high level last year, where in total 3.3% would be the direct capital expenditure by the government. And then if you add what the government will be doing to support the states with zero interest loans, it's 4.5% of GDP, which is very significant. And I think also for the funding that is being provided to the states, there's a clear direction that it be for urban infrastructure, delivery of urban social goods, for example, going to the municipalities, statement that municipalities should be raising municipal bonds, and the money can go towards improving the quality of the municipal corporation with a view to issuing those bonds. These are really quite significant and far-reaching, both in the delivery of public goods, but also bringing down logistics costs for industry. In fact, for everyone.
Of course, you know, the big talk of town is taxes today. When you look at what the government has done with personal taxes, what does it tell you?
Well, it's very clear that the government is trying to nudge personal taxation towards a no exemptions, straightforward, one rate type of tax depending on the slab you're on. So I think that message is not surprising, and it's actually the right way to go, so that we move from what was a very strong exemptions type of culture to a straight one tax rate. But of course, the government is doing this in a very well-calibrated way and not forcing people into that direction. The intention is clearly to put more money in the hands of individuals. And the finance minister, even in a budget speech, shared some of the savings that would be available at the different slabs. So some saving there is, and any money that goes into the hands of personal taxpayers benefits the economy, because it's money that can be spent, it's money that can drive growth, and that can drive demand and therefore drives growth and therefore is in fact attractive for the economy.
So what is your professional assessment on the budget? If you were to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, where does this budget stand?
So I don't like rating budgets, but let me say this is an absolutely superb budget in terms of what it's seeking to cover. At a time when we're bringing the fiscal deficit down, we have not taken away from the capital expenditure and pro-growth nature. And it's very wide-ranging in terms of covering green growth, skills, jobs, and programs, including, I think, very important program in terms of self-help groups and women being organized into productive cooperatives. On the green agenda, and it's important because it is our G20 year and we are talking green, this is not just now lip service to green, this is actual funding and programs that have been stated as wide-ranging as building the mangroves along our coast, to green hydrogen, biogas, renewables, you name it, there's mention of it in different ways through the budget. So the commitment to green by the government is very real and has found its way into the budget agenda, which I think is very important. The commitment to the betterment of women through focus on skilling jobs, which some are not specifically for women, but I suspect some, like nursing, which have got specific mention, will benefit women in terms of jobs and job creation. So the skilling environment that is being created is critical for our growth. Otherwise, we will not reap the demographic dividend we would all like to. Having a lot of people that can't do jobs is going to be of no use to us. So this whole focus on skilling, there's mention of the apprenticeship program, which is very important, where people, kids really get to work in companies. Companies get to train the kids. They also become individuals who become employees of the future. So it's quite far-ranging in terms of looking at job creation. And as we look at the jobs agenda, which is so critical for individual welfare and for the country's welfare, tourism. Finally, we see big mention of tourism, and how that agenda is taken forward remains to be seen. But whole countries in Europe rely on tourism for their growth. And India does so little in terms of attracting global tourists. The focus now on domestic tourism and global tourism is something that I will certainly be looking out to see how we execute on that.
So as I end, no negatives in this budget. Do I understand that correctly, Naina ji?
Yeah, you do understand that correctly. There was one ask from FICCI, which was that the new industry incentive be extended. It was a tax incentive, be extended by another 5 years. I didn't hear mention of that. So maybe, that's one of the things that didn't come through. But so much more than what we were hoping for has happened. It's hardly worth even calling that a negative.
Naina Lal Kidwai, thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. And dear viewers, that's enough budget talk for the day.